Hello everyone. This video titled as English for Research Writing is designed in the form of a help document primarily for research paper writing. As English is indispensable in the field of research across all disciplines, thus this video shall enable the learners to develop their writing skills by expanding their academic vocabulary and consolidating language functions, especially pertaining to English grammar found in research papers. So let us begin first of all with the rules for basic word order in English. The very first rule: the subject, verb, direct object and indirect object should be kept as close to each other as possible. For example, the researchers sent their manuscript to the journal. In this sentence, the researchers, that's the subject, sent is the verb, manuscript is the direct object, and journal is the indirect object. Thus, the subject, verb, direct object and indirect object are kept close to each other. Hence, we can say that the word order in this sentence is correct. Let us consider these two sentences now. First sentence: last week the researchers sent their manuscript to the journal for the second time. Second sentence: the researchers last week sent for the second time to the journal their manuscript. As far as the word order is concerned, the first sentence has the correct word order, whereas the second sentence has an incorrect word order, and hence such kind of sentences should be avoided. Next, choose the subject that leads to the most concise sentence and use active rather than passive verbs. Let us consider these examples. Sentence 1. The most significant values are highlighted in Table 1. The second sentence, Table 1 highlights the most significant values. As far as correct word order is concerned, the second sentence sounds more appropriate. Thus, we need to keep in mind that we need to choose the subject that leads to the most concise sentence. Sentences should be brief and to the point, and also use active rather than passive verbs in a sentence. The subject should be placed before the verb. It's very important that the subject in a sentence is placed before the verb. Let us consider these two sentences. Sentence number 1. Among the factors that influence the choice of parameters are time and cost. Sentence 2. Time and cost are among the factors that influence the choice of parameters. The sentence number 2 is correct, whereas sentence 1 should be avoided. The subject and the verb should be kept as close as possible to each other in a sentence. Let us consider these two sentences now. Sentence 1. People with a high rate of intelligence, an unusual ability to resolve problems, a passion for computers along with good communication skills are generally employed by such companies. Whereas the same sentence can be written with a different kind of a word order. such companies generally employ people with a high rate of intelligence, an unusual ability to resolve problems, and so on and so forth. We need to keep in mind that the second type of sentence, that is the word order in the sentence, should be followed rather than following the first order, which is not appropriate. Next, avoid inserting parenthetical information between the subject and the verb. More than a couple of words between the subject and the verb will interrupt the reader's train of thought and may confuse the readers. Let us consider these two sentences. Sentence number 1. The result after the calculation has been made can be used to determine X. After the calculation has been made, the result can be used to determine X. The second sentence is more appropriate as far as the word order is concerned. Insert a relative clause such as which is, that is, who is, wherever necessary. Using relative clause makes the sentence or the meaning in the sentence more clear. Sentence 1. This is a paper particularly interesting for PhD students. Sentence number 2. This is a paper that is particularly interesting for PhD students. Sentence number 2 sounds more appropriate. Hence, we should follow such kind of word order. It is always better not to separate the verb from its direct object. Sentence 1, we can separate with this tool P and Q. Sentence 2, we can separate P and Q with this tool. Sentence 2 is correct, whereas sentence 1, in which we see that the verb is separated from its direct object, is incorrect. We should not use a pronoun before introducing the noun. It can be used in the beginning of the sentence provided that the pronoun refers back to a noun in the previous sentence. Next, I would like to discuss how to structure a paragraph in a research paper. As far as paragraph structure is concerned, certain important points to be kept in mind. A paragraph is a group of sentences built around a single idea or a subpoint. A paragraph begins with a topic sentence, a key sentence, usually one sentence. Elaboration of the topic sentence, which may be one or two sentences, and then development of the idea by an explanation and examples. That may be 4 to 6 sentences. Next, followed by comparison and contrast if needed, 4 to 6 sentences. Again, concluding sentence, 1 or 2 sentences, roughly 14 to 16 sentences. That is about 300 to 350 words in a paragraph. This length is appropriate for professional, technical, or academic writing. Transitional elements in paragraph writing. The ways by which paragraphs are knit together in a write-up is called transitional elements in paragraph writing. There could be various transitional words, transitional phrases for different intentions in a paragraph, such as in order to provide additional detail, we may use words like Moreover, furthermore, in addition, besides, finally, lastly, even. To show comparison, we may use words like similarly, likewise, still. To provide contrast, words that can be used are like nevertheless, but, however, on the other hand. To discuss condition, we may use words like if, although, yet. To illustrate, for example, for instance, time reference, formerly, after, meanwhile, sometimes, repetition, in other words, that is, summarize, in sum, in short, in brief, and so on and so forth. Conclusion, to conclude, therefore. To recommend, for this purpose, hence, for future reference, for this reason, and so on and so forth. Next is format of a research paper. A research paper, the very first important element or section is the title, followed by abstract and then introduction. Abstract is a short synopsis that describes a larger work. It should describe the topic, scope, purpose, results, and conclusion of your work. Introduction provides a brief overview of your topic and the reasons for conducting your research. Typically, introduction occupies 10 to 15% of your research paper. In your introduction section, you may include a general introduction, problem definition, gaps in literature, problem solutions, study motivation, aims, objectives, significance, advantages of your work. In your literature review, you may include the previous literature, limitations of previous research that has been done, research questions, research to be explored. Now let us discuss some of the words, phrases, vocabulary for the literature review section in a research paper. For previous literature, existing literature, we may use certain ready references or vocabulary, sentence patterns, such as several studies suggest that, prior research suggests that, most early studies as well as current work focus on. This has been discussed by a great number of authors in literature, as has been previously reported in the literature, and then you can add. So similarly, there are other such vocabulary or phrases in the form of phrases, words, word orders, sentence structures, which can be used for this section. For limitations of previous research, we may use sentences like a number of questions regarding so and so remain to be addressed. A closer look to the literature on so and so, however, reveals a number of gaps and shortcomings. Previous studies cannot be considered as conclusive because of the reasons that you state. As far as we know, no previous literature has investigated A, B, or C. Although previous research has illuminated so and so, no study to date has examined A, B or C. Similarly, there are other such patterns of vocabulary that can be used, phrases, word orders in this particular section of your research paper. As far as research question is concerned, let me mention a few of the vocabulary patterns. An important question associated with this is that, furthermore, dash is arguably an important question to be addressed. Some of the interesting questions in this context are so and so. The study addresses several further questions on X, Y, Z. Finally, another promising line of research would be X, Y or Z. Similarly, there could be other such patterns that can be used for this particular section. Research to be explored. A more systematic and theoretical analysis is required for additional studies to understand more completely the key tenets of so and so are required. The unexpected findings signal the need for additional studies to understand more about X, Y or Z. This paper addresses dash so far lacking in the scientific literature. The method section includes experimental setup, data collection, data analysis, statistical testing, assumptions, and so on and so forth. Results and discussions, your findings of your research, comparison with prior studies, limitations of your work, casual arguments, speculations, deductive arguments. Conclusion and future work. That usually includes the overall summary, summarization of the entire paper, and further research, scope for further research. How can you make your title of the research paper more dynamic? Similar words that are often redundant may be avoided, such as inquiry, analysis, evaluation, and assessment. Question in titles tends to stand out from other titles, thereby attracting attention. A two-part title is also a good idea. It works pretty well and attracts attention as well. As far as the use of punctuation marks in the title of your research paper, few points to be kept in mind. The two parts of the title are usually separated by a colon. Capitalize the first letter after a colon. Titles never end with a period. If they are questions, then there should be a question mark at the end. Words that are to be capitalized in the title. Capitalize each initial letter apart from articles and prepositions. Types of words to be included. It is better to use the ing form of verbs rather than abstract nouns. This will make the title more readable and shorter. Thus, use verbs rather than nouns. Let us take this example of two sentences here. Sentence 1, the specification and the evaluation of educational software in primary schools. That is a title of research paper. The same thing written in a different manner, specifying and evaluating educational software in primary schools. This second title seems to be more appropriate as well as shorter. Articles and prepositions in the title of your research paper. Most titles of more than 5 words require prepositions, as it has been highlighted in the example. Titles must have articles wherever necessary. So we need to keep in mind these few things which are also important as far as articles and prepositions are concerned in the title of a research paper. So thank you so much for listening. I hope this video on English for research writing would help the learners in enhancing their writing skills, especially pertaining to writing research papers. Hope to come up with more such videos. Take care.